In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Loupedeck CT and showing you how I'm using it to improve my workflow in After Effects. Now, I've always been curious about similar consoles and peripheral devices to speed up my workflow. When I freelanced at other studios, some of my colleagues have had some similar devices, mainly for color grading and editing though. So when Loupedeck sent me this one for review, I was really excited to see if it could help me animate faster in After Effects. Now, I really like customizing keyboard shortcuts and even reconfiguring my whole studio to get a more effective workflow. I'm really into optimizing my life at less time spent working. And I even get excited when I can make a 2-key keyboard shortcut down to just 1 key. Shaving off those precious seconds really excites me. Now, the purpose of a device like this is to give you more options to optimize your workspace setup. It's not just giving you more keys so you could have more keyboard shortcuts. We've got a bunch of different ways to interact with the interface. We've got dials and knobs and touch screens. So let's take a look and let's get started with this sort of build and feel of the product. It comes packaged really nicely. They've obviously gone to a lot of trouble to make it feel like a real premium product in the packaging. And the first thing I noticed was how compact it was. I was kind of expecting something a little bit bigger, but this comes in around 15 to 16 centimeters. I normally take my old Wacom Intuos when I'm freelancing in a studio, and this is way smaller than that, so there's no issue putting this in a work bag and taking it around. Here it is next to a Chihuahua for comparison, and there are 4 main button types: the square and the circle ones, which have a nice press similar to a keyboard, but way more interesting here are the dial, which is super smooth to use and also has a touchscreen in the middle, and these touchscreens up here, which all have haptic feedback, so you get a nice vibration so you know it's registered your button press. But my favorites are these knobs. They've got a tactile rotation, so there's a clicking every few degrees so you can be really precise, and these press in from the top as well. It's powered by a 90-degree USB-C cable. The cable is only 1 meter long though, so depending on your desktop setup, you might need an extension. I plug mine straight into my keyboard, which sits next to it on the right, so that's not an issue for me. And as soon as you plug it in, it lights up and shows you what you can use it for. And depending on what application you're using, all of these elements change and adapt. So if I'm in a Finder window, I have these options, but as soon as I switch to After Effects, the workspace updates and changes. Now, when I started using this, one of my concerns was, would I be unlearning all the keyboard shortcuts that I've spent my whole life hammering into my muscle memory? But that wasn't the case. This is definitely an accessory to the keyboard. It's not a replacement by any means. I still use keyboard shortcuts a lot of the time, but now my left hand has a lot more options, so it can just drift slightly over to the left where I sit it next to my keyboard and perform some more specific actions. There definitely is a learning curve. When you're starting, it'll take a while before your head and your hands remember that there's another device that you can do these actions on. Now, it will slow you down at first, but it wasn't long before it was obvious to me that this is going to be a lot faster for some very specific actions. So here's how I'm using this in After Effects. In the first workspace, the knobs on the left are mapped to zooming in and out of our timeline, zooming in and out of our composition window, and selecting layers as well. The knobs on the right are linked to the transform properties. So the top one is scale, the middle one is rotation, and the bottom one is opacity. So we can adjust these properties without having to open them up in the timeline and then drag these numbers out. And the main benefit here is the tactility of the knobs. Now, I know this doesn't come through at all on camera, but you can feel a resistance in the rotation. Every degree or percentage value that you adjust this, there's a little click where you can feel it in the rotation of the knob. So this is great for getting really accurate values, especially with rotation because it feels so intuitive, rather than clicking and dragging this number. On the main wheel, we can rotate it to scrub through our timeline, either by 1 frame, by 10 frames, or by select keyframe, which jumps to the next keyframes that you've got laid down. And scrubbing through the timeline is definitely something that most animators are doing a lot. I've got a mouse with a horizontal scroll wheel, which I use a lot for this, but that's nothing compared to this wheel. And we have different workspaces as well with these keys at the top here, which are touchpads. And we can change workspaces by pressing these round buttons. Workspace 1 is our hero actions. We can trim layers, change our start and end points, cut, paste, duplicate layers, and pre-comp them. And the purple buttons are actions and the blue buttons are pages. So we can click into organize here, and we have more actions that we can do with 1 button. We can create a new null, create a new adjustment layer, a text layer, a new solid, import files, create a new comp, and even swap between resolutions. Workspace 2 is animation and effects. Here we've got a whole load of options for adding easings and keyframe interpolation. And our knobs can now adjust the position of these layers. And we can simply swipe on here if we want it to increase by 10 pixels instead of 1 pixel. And we've also got a page here with some of the most commonly used effects as well. Workspace 3 is color, so you can apply LUTs and color correction to your heart's content. I don't do much color correction, so I tend to stay out of here for the most part. And the same with Workspace 4, which is for 3D. But very handy, I assume, for someone who does more 3D in After Effects than I do. I'm generally trying to avoid the 3D in After Effects as much as possible. Now, Workspace 5 is one of my custom workspaces. Here, I've got my most used actions in one place. And all of these actions in any workspace are completely customizable. Anything on here is really. And if we click on the Loupedeck logo, that launches its configuration software, where we can make any changes just like setting a custom keyboard shortcut. And it's all drag and drop as well. So it's really easy to use. We've got a bit of space here on my custom workspace. So let's add an action for a new effect. I use curves a lot, so let's go over here and search for curves. Here it is. Let's just click and drag it onto our workspace, and that's done. Then when we go back into After Effects, we can add curves with just one press. Now, there are some After Effects plugins that you can use to add customized toolbars, like K-Bar, which I definitely love, and this is kind of like a physical one of those, but of course with these tactile buttons that I just can't get enough of. And I've also been using this for Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, and Premiere as well too. But I spend most of my time in After Effects, so that's where I've done most of the customizing and felt the most benefit so far. The Loupedeck CT is also compatible with Lightroom, Camera Raw, and even audio applications like Ableton, which I have never used, and a ton more. If you do a lot of color grading and editing photos, I can imagine this being particularly useful for that. I also find myself using the desktop actions a lot when you have, find a window open or in Chrome, when you can play music and adjust the volumes with these knobs so you feel like a DJ all day long. And access to the emoji keyboard can come in really handy, as well as having the snipper tool ready in just one press is really useful as well. So in conclusion, can I recommend this? Now, you can get really fast in the software of your choosing with just the mouse and keyboard, but I can't deny that I really prefer using these dials and these knobs. There's just something really satisfying and overall more efficient than using a keyboard for some actions. It looks really nice and it feels really nice, but I know that's not important to everyone. It isn't the most important thing for me. I'm the kind of guy who'd much prefer to stack cans of beans on top of each other and mount my camera on top of that if that's more efficient than a tripod. The most important thing to me is if it fits into my workflow, and this does. Time is one of the few resources that doesn't replenish, so I'm very favorable to any device that can help me save time. Now, this is a premium product with a premium price tag. It goes for 550 American dollars. But if you're really interested in streamlining your workflow and want more control over your process, I would highly recommend it. I've been using this for 3 weeks now, and every day or two I'm finding a new feature or a new action that I can add to a custom workspace and make my workflow more efficient. There's links in the description if you want to find out more. To discover the best ways to learn motion design, I've created a short playlist of videos that I think you'll enjoy if you've made it this far. Please like the video and consider subscribing if you'd like more of these videos every week. I'll see you in the next video.